Welcome to Legal English Tips once again. Today we'll be looking at vocabulary, legal vocabulary related to land ownership. So let's imagine that you own a piece of land or maybe a house or a property. You are the owner, you have the title, and you have land ownership. What happens is if you wish to rent that piece of land or a property or a house or an apartment to somebody, you become the landlord. The landlord, it's kind of an old term because lord is related to royalty. The landlord is the person who rents property to another person. That person is called a tenant. Now, in the States, they use the word a lease. In some other parts of the world, they use the word a rental agreement. Lease has become very popular. It can be confused with leasing, which is a different thing altogether. We'll have a look at that on another day. But essentially, the tenant is the person who rents from the landlord. Now, there are some rural issues here. When we get into the rural area, the words or the language changes a little bit. We go into what's known as a bailment. This is where a rural producer would take a piece of land from a landlord and he would take over the ownership for a temporary period of time. He becomes a temporary owner, or there's temporary ownership. He's the bailee. This is very common in some rural parts of England, in Australia, and some parts of Latin America as well. That means that the bailee has certain responsibilities, just as an owner would in a regular situation. Some bailments can actually turn into full ownership depending on the time period, if the landlord dies, for example, but that really depends on the law of the land. We do have another one called an easement, which is a little bit different. It's the idea of access, because maybe your land is blocking my land and I need to get to my land. So I need to access my land using your land. Then I would need an easement contract. An easement contract allows me to use your land just to access my land. So this happens in some very tight urban areas, very dense places, like maybe some parts like London and Tokyo, Mexico City, maybe Sao Paulo in Brazil, some parts of other dense cities, Los Angeles maybe, but not so popular in other parts of the world. So that's just about access. All right, hope that helps.